Lush, and I'm here in the Hub Culture Pavilion in Davos. Really pleased to be joined by Toby Porter, the Chief Executive of HelpAge International. Aging has been on the agenda here in Davos. What's sort of caught your attention?
Well, I think there's been a lot of discussion about how healthcare systems need to evolve. I've been already to a couple of great discussions where almost everybody in the healthcare industry says there's a real problem at the moment because the whole structure of healthcare is based around pricing for services rather than pricing for outcomes.
Right.
And I think with aging populations, and we know that the implications of aging populations have on the costs of healthcare and care provision. It's really good to see this emphasis on preventative care, on managing healthy aging, on non-communicable diseases. And obviously if everybody's at these meetings to say, well, we all agree the current system needs to change, hopefully we'll hopefully
change it.
We'll start to see the change.
So where do you see signs of hope? Is there a particular country that you could point to say, this is the way we should do it?
Yeah, well, it was very interesting to see Premier Li come from China because China is a fascinating country. Right now it has 190 million of her citizens who are aged 60 or over. And that figure is projected to grow to 440 million by 2050.
Right.
By which time that will represent 25% of the world's older population. So China really is a country at the front line of population aging, if you like, and has done some great things. So 4 years ago there was an introduction of a universal pension. The first time there was essentially a universal pension payment to people in China when they reached a certain age. And I think that single piece of legislation meant that 140 million people received pensions for the first time. So I think the thing about population aging is it's certainly not a case where developing countries and fast emerging countries need to just look what's happening in the West and say we just need to copycat, because the Western systems are creaking too, if you like. So there's a lot of narrative about leapfrogging. How can health systems, how can pension systems, how can employment practices, how can attitudes towards older age in developing countries leapfrog from what they can see and learn from the West. But it's really complicated stuff because in the West it's really, I always say that sort of population aging is the narrative is of adaptation. How do we adapt healthcare? How do we adapt care homes? How do we adapt working age retirements? How do we adapt pension systems? How do we adapt the relationship between individual and state and the entitlement system? But what about all of those countries where there's no real architecture, there's no real social security or healthcare architecture? What about those countries where individuals haven't really had any kind of material entitlements from the state? And these countries are aging very rapidly. Aging is not a developed world challenge anymore, it's a whole world challenge. I mean, Africa being the exception in terms of, in percentage terms, by 2030, so by the end of the Sustainable Development Goal period, you'll be talking about 25 to 30% of populations in Asia will be age 60 or over. Latin America, sort of 23, 24%. Africa will only be moving from 5 to 8%. So Africa is a younger continent, and quite properly people are there. The first priority clearly should be the youth bulge and creating jobs and opportunities for younger Africans. So.
What keeps you up at night?
Parties.
Toby, thank you so much for stopping by the Hub Culture Pavilion here in Davos, and I'm Edie Lush.